At the beginning, there was a group of geologists and prospectors in the middle of the desert. Their mission was to conduct a geological survey. After setting off dynamite explosions in the ground, they discovered something strange in volcanic vents beneath the sand. The test results revealed something unusual that left them confused. By coincidence, they managed to locate the source of that strange thing, which was about 7 kilometers away, and they decided to go see it for themselves to figure out what was going on. The three of them walked there on foot. Along the way, they found a large bone that looked pretty scary. Then they came across a sandstone rock. One of them stepped forward to take a sample and discovered it was hollow inside. He felt something strange in the air. Suddenly, a creature burst out of the rock, grabbed the man in front of it, and disappeared with him, and the rest of the team. No trace of them was left behind. Then we moved to Zach, a highly skilled data and systems analyst and an experienced prospector. He was asked to go to a specific location, agreed to the mission, and headed out. He found himself in the middle of the desert, where he met an old man selling strange items. Zach asked him about the place, and the old man gave him a small object, warning him that it was powerful and telling him to keep it somewhere safe. Zach sat under the burning sun waiting for the man who would accompany him into the desert. Eventually, a pickup truck showed up, driven by a man named Carl, who would be Zach's assistant. Zach noticed a skull hanging on the front of the truck but didn't pay much attention to it. He got in with Carl, and they drove through the desert, passing many animal skeletons, just bones scattered everywhere, until they reached the prospectors' camp. Zach introduced himself to everyone there and met Mickey, who logged his arrival and searched his bag. She found a toolkit and noticed a small device. When she asked about it, Zach explained that it analyzes rock layers and can detect water up to 100 feet deep, or anything unusual in the soil. Mickey's colleague mocked Zach, saying he could find water with his own eyes and hoping Zach would last longer than the ones before him. Carl and Johann got into a heated argument in front of Zach that escalated into a physical fight. They even shoved Johann off a desk. After that, they took Zach aside. Mickey told him they would be riding in a fuel supply truck headed to their station to drop him off at the site where he would be working. The truck's main job was transporting prospectors, and they were now heading to the last known location of the remaining prospectors, which was about a 17-hour drive away. Once they reached the area, they would have to search for the missing prospectors themselves because the desert was so vast, and the team hadn't been able to pinpoint their exact location. Carl grabbed a first aid kit from the truck in case anything happened along the way. Cora, the mechanic, joined them, and Magda was driving. Zach felt uneasy when he noticed Carl carrying a gun, but they explained that bandits sometimes attacked in the desert, and they needed weapons for protection. In fact, those same bandits were believed to be responsible for the disappearance of the previous fuel truck driver, who was still missing. Before they set off, Titus, the guard, joined them, and the journey began. Along the way, they talked about another vehicle that had vanished along with the prospectors inside it. After traveling for a long time, they finally found the prospectors' vehicle, and 2 bodies lying next to it. They were shocked by what they saw and didn't know what to do. They decided to report it to the police, thinking it might be a murder committed by bandits, since the condition of the bodies didn't suggest a natural death. There were supposed to be 3 prospectors, but only 2 bodies were there. Carl, Zach, and Titus went searching for the third man, Harvey. Titus called out to them, saying he had found footprints leading away from the scene. The tracks could belong to Harvey, and maybe he had killed the others and fled. They followed the footprints until they suddenly found a second set that seemed to appear out of nowhere, which only deepened the mystery. Strange markings appeared ahead of them, almost like warnings of something lurking in the desert. They rushed back to the vehicle but decided to keep following the tracks, which stretched on for a very long distance. After traveling about 30 kilometers, they found Harvey's body. His skin had been completely removed, and his body was horribly mutilated. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was impossible for Harvey to have walked that entire distance alone, and died that way in just 9 hours since their disappearance. They confirmed it was him because he had a limp caused by a nail lodged in the bone of his leg, and they found it beside him. Even then, Carl remained convinced that someone had killed him, and that they needed to find whoever was responsible. Because of the delay, they were forced to camp there and wait until sunrise. After that, they returned to the camp and let the police handle the situation. Zack couldn't sleep because of what he had seen, so he decided to distract himself with a board he found and used it to slide down the like a sand board. Mickey went over to him and told him it was dangerous to stay alone at night, but he said he'd be fine for a little while and then come back. Suddenly, the device next to him started beeping loudly, warning that something was close. Zack lifted his head and saw a strange creature standing right beside him. He rushed to Carl and told him what he had seen, but Carl looked around and didn't see anything. He assumed Zack might be drunk and didn't believe him. However, when Mickey checked the area, she realized the bone they had with them was gone, which made Zack's story more believable. Even so, Carl still thought Zack was trying to scare them and refused to believe there was something out there in the desert. Titus then told them a legend about a monster called a cyclo. According to the story, everything in the desert, human or animal, belonged to it, and it lived forever by absorbing the life force from its victims' bones. No one had imagined the story might actually be real. They went back to the vehicle and waited for sunrise to continue following the footprints in the sand. As soon as the sun came up, they moved on and soon spotted a strange creature in the distance. Carl managed to shoot it with his rifle, but the moment the bullet hit, it collapsed into the sand, leaving nothing behind but bones. They went to the spot and found Harvey's bone there, which shocked them even more. Carl tried to take Harvey's bone with them. Titus seemed to be the only one who truly understood what was happening. When Zack asked him, Titus said that years ago a colleague of his had disappeared, and when they found him, he was nothing but a skeleton with no flesh left. He was certain a cyclo was responsible, a cruel and merciless creature. They hurried back to the vehicle, only to find it disabled, its wires burned out. They couldn't move. They tried calling for help, but there was no signal. So they sent out a distress signal instead. Carl told them a plane overhead had picked up their signal and rescue would arrive within 2 days. Luckily, they had enough supplies to last that long. They set up a tent and took turns keeping watch through the night. When Carl finished his shift, he went into his small tent to sleep. The creature had been watching him from a distance. Once it noticed he was alone, it approached. Titus sensed movement and went to check on Carl, only to find him covered in black ants eating his flesh. When Titus tried to save him, the ants swarmed his arm too. Carl woke up just in time, grabbed his rifle, and fired at the ants, freeing Titus. They rushed back to the vehicle, but the ants kept advancing, completely unaffected by bullets. Carl decided to pour gasoline on them and set them on fire, but Magda stopped him, warning that the truck was full of fuel and they could all blow up. Zack noticed the ants were retreating because of the gasoline on the ground. Carl kept pouring more until the ants sank into the sand and disappeared. They checked on Titus and realized he was badly injured and needed immediate medical attention after losing a lot of blood. At that moment, Zack's device started beeping again, signaling something was approaching. Zack poured more gasoline around the vehicle, and the creature appeared in front of them, formed entirely from black ants. Carl tried to shoot it, but the bullets had no effect. Every time he fired, it simply reformed. The creature suddenly vanished from sight, leaving them desperate to figure out how to save Titus before he died. Magda suggested they return to the prospector's vehicle, which had a communication device they could use to call for help. She stayed behind with Titus. At sunrise, Carl, Zack, and Mickey set out toward the vehicle, about 30 to 40 kilometers away, carrying extra gasoline cans. But a powerful sandstorm hit them. They searched for shelter until it passed. The storm buried most of their fuel, leaving only a small amount, and it also destroyed Zack's detection device. Night fell while they were still walking, so they stopped near some trees to rest. Zack poured a circle of gasoline around them for protection. They sat in silence until Zack heard a strange sound. Mickey told him it was just the desert, the sound of sand grains rubbing together at night. But Zack pointed out there was no wind. Suddenly, the creature appeared before them, wearing Magda's face. They realized it had killed both Magda and Titus and had come for them. It tried to approach, but the gasoline barrier stopped it. They stayed awake until sunrise. In the morning, they heard the sound of a radio coming from the vehicle and realized it was nearby. They ran toward it to send their location and call for help. They found themselves near the same sandstone rock the prospectors had broken earlier. Climbing down, they discovered something like a nest. They realized they were inside the queen ant's nest, and that a cyclo was actually an ancient ant that had lived there for a long time. When its nest was destroyed and its life threatened, it began feeding on human flesh and bones, flesh to survive, bones to build a skeletal structure it could move with. That explained why when Carl shot it, the bone structure it was using was destroyed, forcing it to crawl and search for a new one. Then they heard Johann arriving. When he saw them, he aimed his rifle at them, thinking they were bandits who had killed his friends after discovering diamonds in the pit. He forced them into his vehicle and headed toward Magda's truck. He struck Carl on the head, knocking him unconscious. Zack and Carl had already decided they couldn't just run from this creature. It was unique and deadly, and it would keep killing anyone who entered the desert. Mickey believed they should escape, but she had no choice but to help them with their plan. They figured the creature must have left its original location and would search for a new place to build its colony. They guessed it would head to an abandoned mine, and they were right. They entered the mine, leaving Johann tied up in the vehicle. They brought with them a highly flammable and explosive chemical, stronger than gasoline. Zack managed to turn on the lights so they could see inside. They searched until they found the nest. Carl tried to chase the creature, but before it could kill him, Zack distracted it, causing it to fall into a deep pit. They surrounded it and prepared to burn it, but it grabbed Carl's leg and dragged him down. Carl sacrificed himself, detonating the chemical and killing both himself and the creature. After the explosion, they discovered a central source controlling the ants' behavior. Suddenly, they were surrounded by ants. Zack pulled out a dagger and stabbed the control center, causing the ants to scatter immediately. Zack and Mickey escaped the mine just before it completely collapsed. Outside, they found Johann dead in the vehicle, since he had been left tied up. In the end, Zack and Mickey were the only survivors after destroying a cyclo and ending the nightmare. That's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.